Hello everyone, and welcome to my weekly energy and abundance reading. For this week, it's the 29th of November. My name is Karen from KarenTurpin.com, if you don't know who I am yet. Now, today, I'm going to break this down into a few individual pieces, and then I want to show you how altogether it builds the bigger picture of what we're experiencing right now. Because our ability to be abundant is almost threatened in a way by what's going on in the external world and what is the larger agenda of what's playing out on the planet right now. So I'd like to give you some understanding around those pieces, because when you understand what's going on, then you know also how to override it, because awareness and information is everything. And once you've got that, as I say, then you can override it, because we want to be in that high vibrational abundant state if at all possible. However, it's true that there are many external influences that are testing us, let's say. Whether that's coming from off-planet, like solar flares, the Schumann resonance, or whether we've got astrological planetary movements and things like that, which do affect us, as well as what's happening here on the planet in terms of consciousness or agenda, as the case may be. So let me start by saying, firstly, the energies over this weekend have been very turbulent. For me personally, I felt it. I've also had quite a number of emails and DMs of people saying, Karen, I'm overwhelmed with emotion. I don't know what's happening. I've got all this fear coming up. All of these types of things people talk to me about. So Friday or Saturday of, a few days ago of the weekend, depending where you were on the planet, Friday, Saturday, they announced the arrival of this new variant, which they found in South Africa. I find it interesting that the test to point out this new variant almost seems to have been created at warp speed, which is quite a miracle in itself. It also seems to have raced people around the world, because there are people arriving in locations around the world and the test kits are there ready, waiting for them. That's a miracle as well. Yes, I'm being sarcastic, because really, what else can you do when you see these types of weirdness, strange anomalies happening? So I actually think they've rolled this new variant out probably 5 or 6 months earlier than they originally planned. We always knew there were more variants coming. That's why they have all the extra slots for boosters on those passports. We knew the variants would come because they have to keep the fear up. Now, let me also put a pause on that. I'll come back to that, because also at the weekend, let's remember, on Saturday, around the world, we have had hundreds of thousands, millions of people all standing together in protest or to claim their rights of freedom. They are standing for truth and sovereignty, demanding the truth, really, even though we often know it because we do read alternative media. We know that the truth doesn't come out on mainstream, so we look for other sources of information. Much of it is peer-reviewed and scientific by epidemiologists, virologists. It's all out there. We have to look for it. That is our responsibility, to search for the truth. It's always been that way, because we remember that so much truth has been hidden on this planet. We are digging so deep, but that's where we find the truth, down the rabbit hole, as they say, right? So this weekend, hundreds of thousands, millions of people globally standing in the streets, protesting lockdowns and claiming their rights. They are standing against the various forms of governmental control that are being placed upon them. Now, in my opinion, they didn't expect to see these mass numbers of people week after week after week standing up for their rights and their freedom. And I think that's why they rolled the variant out quicker than originally planned. But that's just my opinion. I can be wrong. So now we know that we are dealing with a bioweapon. Surely we know that. If you're listening to this, you're probably of that like mind as well. But anyway, We know that this was never about a virus. This was always about control. It was always created to control the population, to depopulate, and to control the remaining people. Okay, that's a very dark agenda. I agree. However, we can see it playing out more and more. This weekend, they announced these digital, pulling together of all the information into one digital place on your phone or whatever. So that's already started to roll out. I think they're rolling that out quicker than originally planned as well. And that's probably because they can see people are standing up and they are losing the control that they think they had over us, because it was always going to be that way. When the people stand, there are more of us. And this is why it's so important that we come together. We've always talked about moving into 5D and coming into unity, into community, and look at the millions of people around the world that are coming together in unity for their freedom and for truth. So you can kind of see from that, there's those elements of 5D happening. We might say, oh, but it's a protest and it's a very scary situation. Yes, but the people are coming together to stand for freedom. And that is, the good thing that we can take away from this. We see that 5D consciousness arriving. Sure, you could say, oh, but these are not spiritual people. It doesn't have to be about that. It has to be about standing together for freedom, for our rights, God-given rights. Okay, so that is one of the positives that we see, of the vast numbers of people coming together from every background, every creed, every belief system, all of it. So that's a good thing. Okay, so I think I mentioned it's a bioweapon. There are more deaths happening from this so-called treatment than from the virus itself, the thing it's meant to treat, that they haven't isolated fully yet. By the way, that's proven in court in over 20 countries around the world. They can't isolate it, or if they did isolate it and bring it into court, then it would be very clear it's a bioweapon. So they're kind of hands off, they're denying that. But that information is out there as well in many of the courts around the world. You can look that up for yourself. Okay, now let me talk about trauma-based mind control. This is a slightly random thing, but as a spiritual healer, I got to work with hundreds actually of people, hundreds of people coming out of spiritual cults, and they were coming to me saying, I can't get my thoughts back. Like every time I close my eyes to sleep or to meditate, all of the stuff coming up that I was told whilst in the spiritual cult is in my head. I can't get it out. It's kind of like a looping pattern. At the time, going back some years now, I didn't actually know how to get into people's minds to get that looping pattern out. But I know that these people were very disturbed because they felt like they were losing control of their own thoughts because of what had been programmed into them from the cults. This is what led me to study psychology, hypnotherapy, NLP, how to use the mind. And my intention was to help those people. But I kind of got fascinated by it along the way. And because I also learned then how to program people. Now, I, of course, program people for success with the thoughts and feelings that they want to feel, like, I am abundant, I am healthy, I am lovable, I am enough, these kinds of things. But the principle works both ways. You can program someone to be confident and successful and great at public speaking. You can also program someone to be in fear and terrified and give all their power away. And of course, this is exactly what we're seeing with social media and with this whole agenda that's been rolling out on the planet for the last 2 years. I realize, you may realize, but many people may not realize that they are in a psychological operation, a Psych Op. We call it for short, a psychological operation, whereby people are being programmed to be in fear, to give their power away, and to be very subservient and follow orders. They had everybody trained here in Australia anyway to listen to the news at 11 a.m. every day, when the premiers would come out and give us the latest death numbers and tell us what our next lot of controls and restrictions were. Okay, every day at 11 a.m. people would tune into the TV or their social media or the radio to listen to the next lot of governmental control. That is mind programming. Now you can say, oh no, we really wanted to know, we were interested, but you won't realize the subtleties behind programming, the subliminal programming. Every time you walk in a shop, there is a sign there that says you have to scan in and, you know, be very afraid because there's this terrible virus around, and wear a mask and do your hand sanitizer and keep away from people. Now, every single shop that you walk in, subliminally, it's right there. You are taking everything into your mind that is in the whole of your surroundings. Whether you're aware of it or not, it's going in subliminally. The damage being done to our children, oh my God, it's just off the charts. I can't even imagine. If you're thinking, if you're a young person thinking of a career that might be very lucrative in the future, I would say go into psychology or hypnotherapy, because the damage being done to our children through this is terrible, and they're going to need help to deprogram from this. Why I say that is because with my hypnotherapy clients, the root cause of all of their problems always goes back to childhood, what they were subliminally programmed to think, feel, believe from their surroundings. So that's something we can talk about another day. People are struggling to use their common sense these days. They can't put the pieces of this together like I'm trying to set out for you today. And I have to say, I've had to work really hard on being non-judgmental, on finding my compassion and empathy for people, because honestly, some of the things I see people do, I'm gobsmacked. Like literally, I could pick my chin up off the floor. I look at people and I just go, are you fucking kidding me? I cannot get in my head why people are behaving the way they're behaving. However, I do know that it's because they've been programmed and mind controlled, and that's very, very sad. This whole psychological operation, this Psych Op, is designed to put people into fear. This is why it connects to our ability to be abundant or not. So when people are in fear, they are very easily controlled. They look to somebody to save them, and the government steps in and says, don't worry, we have this treatment. And people go, oh my God, thank God, my government's looking after me. No, no, no. It's not about that at all. It's actually a reversal. So another piece I want to mention is about the trauma that is written in our DNA at a cellular level. We can call this ancestral trauma, generational trauma. And this is another thing that we've been seeing here in Australia in the last week or two. There have been many reports coming out about government, even the army, they're saying, and police are going into communities in the Northern Territories, which are our original people communities. They're saying that they're dragging them away, putting them into quarantine camps and force jabbing them, etc., etc. Now, I've heard both sides of that story. I've also heard that some of the original stories have been retracted. So honestly, I don't know the full extent of what's really going on up there, whether it is happening, it isn't happening, whether it's for their good really, or if it's not, I don't know. But what I do know is that our original people here, and this is true in every country around the world, the original people have a cellular ancestral genetic memory written in their DNA. And here in Australia, it's called the stolen generation, when their people were taken away from them by force. Now, whether or not that's really happening there, I don't know, but it will trigger the trauma memory from their DNA because it's written within us, just in the same way that Jews and the Nazi Germany and the concentration camps in Austria and all of this stuff, that is in our DNA too. It's triggering up and it brings up this fear. We could call that PTSD, even though we didn't exactly live through it ourselves. It's in our cells, it's in our DNA, the memory. This is why our DNA is so important to protect, not to inject things in there that distort that DNA memory, because that is also our connection with God's source. It's so valuable, we have to protect it at all costs. But energetically, everywhere we look, it's fear, fear, fear. It's triggering our fears from inside. Those of us that have spoken out in past times, spoken the truth, we are in fear maybe of speaking out again in case we get burnt at the stake again. You know, I call that the witch wound, but we've all got these wounds of speaking truth. And this is, in a sense, why it's so comforting to see millions of people standing together to demand the truth and to speak the truth. So there's great comfort in that. Please don't feel alone. There are a lot of people on the same team, on the same side, fighting for our truth and our rights. Now, when we look at what's being put out on the mainstream media and on social media, there's a lot of fear mongering. We don't know specifically parts that all parts of it are true. There's a lot of fear mongering, as I say, from people's trauma being triggered. But there is also a lot of very valid scientists putting out really great information. Now, wherever we place our attention, we're putting energy there, we're building and expanding that energy. Now, if we focus on the dark and scary stuff, it's going to expand, we're going to align to it, and we're going to see more and more of it around, because that is the way the reticular activating system in the brain functions. It looks for things to validate its belief. On the other side of that, we could be looking for things to validate our belief that it's all going to be okay, because of the number of people rising up and standing in truth and all of that. So we can focus our attention whichever way we want, and we will see something there to validate us. Doesn't mean it's 100% accurate, but it's kind of brings us a sense of, yep, I knew I was right about that. It's just the way the mind works. Now, when you look at all the fear that's everywhere, you will feel the fear in your body. You'll get a sick feeling, your heart will increase, you might have cold sweat, hot sweat, you might feel overwhelmed, you might feel completely disempowered. But that sick feeling, the palpitations, in a sense, it's also got an addictive quality to it. So you might also find that you just can't look away. It's a little bit like, you know, when there's a smash on the highway and everyone slows down to have a look. It's like, just drive past. The ambulance is there, it's being dealt with, but humans are like that. We kind of can't look away. We want to know what's really going on over there. And this is what it's like when we focus too much on this dark stuff, right? We can't look away. It becomes addictive, and there's an adrenaline rush that we get from it. It scares the pants off of us. Scary as all shit, but we can't look away. It's like we're addicted, we can't get enough. That puts our whole body into a state of fight and flight. You just got to know the next thing. It can go the other way too. We can be looking at the positives, hoping and praying and wishing that somebody is going to do something, that a court is going to do something that's going to stop all the atrocities that are happening on the planet. So we get really focused on that as well. And we keep hoping someone's going to save us. But there's an adrenaline rush to that as well. Both of them are really quite addictive. And they put us into fear and fight and flight. Sorry, they put us into a fear state, but it's called fight and flight. And the next stage of fight and flight, when we're really overwhelmed, is to freeze. You know, we've heard the expression frozen like a deer in the headlights, right? So we've gone beyond fighting or fleeing, fight and flight, and we're now paralyzed in fear. And this is what we see in a lot of the people that we walk past in the streets and, you know, doing this stuff and masked up and all of the stuff, whatever they're doing, right? Some of them are almost in the freeze state. So I can assure you from my perspective that there is a lot of really good things happening on the planet to help us. There are a lot of us standing together now. You won't hear about that on mainstream. You have to look underneath at alternative medias because, you know, for all of us to know that we're winning goes against their agenda. They want to have the position of power and control over us. So it doesn't serve their agenda to give us hope. Their agenda is better served by keeping us in fear. This is a psychological and a biological war that we are living through. This is World War III. It's been said before, I didn't create that. This is a battle of good versus evil, light versus dark. We could say black ops, black operatives versus the white hats. The white hats are the good guys. And we hope that they are the ones that can move these laws and controls through the courts, through the governments, and take it down at that level. That's what we're hoping for. But the thing is, people are really confused at the moment. They can't think straight. There's contradictory information all over the place. And what better way to break down someone's psychological processing than to confuse them? It's like gaslighting on a global scale. We also have Stockholm Syndrome happening. This is where, globally as well, this is where the captive falls in love with their captor. So if we are the ones that are being held captive inside our homes at lockdowns, for example, potentially we give all our power away to the government because we believe they're looking after us. So that's the Stockholm Syndrome that's happening globally. You can look all of these things up because they're real psychological things that have been well documented. What we need to realize is that the government doesn't have our best interest at heart. It never has done. The government, though, I believe, this is my opinion, that the government can see that they are losing control. This is why they're bringing out the variant quicker. This is why they're bringing out all of their digital stuff a lot quicker. It's, you know, if you get a rat caught in the corner, trapped in the corner, it's going to come out fighting with everything it's got. And I actually believe that this is what we're seeing right now, which is why we need to really, really hold strong, even more than ever before, because there are more of us. We need to stay together. So these protests and these freedom marches, people standing up, taking back control of their rights, it's quite a high vibration. I know that sounds weird because people think of protests as all anger and, you know, aggro people and low consciousness people, but it's not. As I've said, it's across the board, a whole range of people. And there's anger there as well. People are angry that they've had their jobs taken away and their livelihoods taken and they can't see their families and all of this stuff, right? Their freedoms are taken. People are angry, but the thing about the anger is that it's a much higher vibration than hopeless and helpless, which is what they want us to feel, locking us in, holding us in fear, telling us that we have to be afraid to go out and breathe fresh air, for God's sake. Hopeless and helpless is where they are trying to program us to be and remain. Anger is a much higher vibration because it's a very active energy. And we could even say that this is the divine masculine energy standing up to protect the divine feminine, the mothers, the women, and most importantly, to protect the children, because we know they're coming for the children with this bioweapon. And it will crucify the DNA, the Christ consciousness that is within all of us and within our babies. That bioweapon, oh my God, we can't let them come after our children. So the divine masculine is rising in the power, and we all have masculine and feminine within us. It's not just the men to do this, but this is the women to stand up to protect their young. And you know how powerful a woman can be to protect her baby. And this is the energy that we're seeing in those rallies. So it's a higher vibrational energy at those rallies. There's camaraderie, there's support, there's community there. They're not all about angry people fighting, even if it's, put forward that way on mainstream. There's skirmishes and there's fighting, which they put on mainstream because they want people to think that this is an angry mob coming at the government. But that's not, that's just to fuel their agenda. This is human beings, sovereign beings coming together, standing in solidarity to protect each other, coming together with brothers and sisters of all different nations, backgrounds. This isn't about highly conscious people who meditate every day and have this spiritual thing. This is about your everyday human being who wants to stand free to live his or her life, okay? And there's the energy of these people coming together in vast numbers. As I say, it creates a ripple effect on the outside. So even if you're not at a rally, you're going to be affected energetically through that ripple effect. And I would really like you to see that as very positive. Come and join a protest march in your town and feel the energy of the people there. It's very, very uplifting, actually. And we're creating this movement of people that all want a better life together. We want freedom, joy, and abundance. And they want to put us into fear. They want to put us into lack, and they want to have control over us, because in that state, there is no joy, there is no abundance. We're living in a place of fear, and we know, because law of attraction is a universal law. You can't move away from it. It affects you. So if you're living in fear and terror, how can you draw towards you beautiful experiences of joy and abundance? If you're in fear, right down here is a low vibration, abundance and joy and happiness and life is up here somewhere. You're a complete mismatch. This is why there's been this heavy feeling all over the planet while people have been in that low vibration. And this is why in a protest march where people are standing for freedom and they're singing together and they know that they're not alone, there's support, their community, that is a much higher vibration. And in that higher vibration is where we get our creativity. We get our intuitive downloads about what we need to do next, either to keep us safe because there are things going on, or to move us away from danger, maybe move location, move jobs. All of this kind of thing comes through with our intuition. Intuition can't kind of come through when we're in that low fear state, because we're in fight and flight and we're not clear for our intuition there. So we need to raise our vibration, lift it right up and be highly vibrating so that we can be connected with spirit, get our intuition coming through. And that's where we get our abundance coming through. So what makes you feel abundant? What makes you joyful? What brings you happiness? What makes you feel light? If it feels heavy, you need to move away from it. If you stuck your hand, on the gas ring and it's burning you, you're not going to stay there, are you? You're going to take your hand off and shit, I need to move away from that. And you move somewhere else where it feels better. So if you're in a real low vibration and you're feeling terrified about the future, don't stay there. Move away. Do things that uplift you. Get outside and walk in the fresh air and take the freaking mask off and breathe. Do more of what will naturally rise your vibration. You're free to do that. That is your choice. Where you place your attention is a choice. You can't attract abundance to you when you're living in fear and you're focused 100% on all of the terrible things that are happening here. Not denying that they're not happening. But if you put all of your attention on it, you're going to align to that energetically and it will feel like crap. It's not a great place. You don't want to hang around there if possible. So shift your attention somewhere else, raise your vibration. So for me and my clients, the fear of not having enough money, fear of having no clients, worrying that you're not good enough, that your business will fail. These are all low vibrational things. And sure, we can drop in and out of that sometimes, but we don't want to focus in on that stuff, on those fears and worries, because that's not where our abundance is. And we can't amplify abundance when we're in a low vibration. In fact, all we're going to be doing is amplifying fear. Excuse me a moment. So we want to activate our intuition. We want to raise our vibration. In all aspects of life, our intuition will guide us in our business, in our life, in our health choices. And in these current times, when, life looks pretty scary at times out there, but we want to have our intuition fully intact and really guiding us so that we can get the best experience through these challenging times. You can't get clear intuition and inner guidance when you're living in fear. When you're in fight and flight, the next stage is to freeze. When you're frozen, you can't do anything. And I see people in their businesses and in life in that freeze stage too. So let's put all these pieces together in these last couple of minutes, because I know this has been long. Sorry about that. We have a major psychological operation happening to distract us and to put us into fear, which lowers our vibration. We have an opportunity to stand for freedom together against control and suppression of our spirit. We need to step out and stand up and stand together to shift the balance of that. We cannot be abundant and joyous when we're living in fear. So we have to do something to shift out of that vibration. We have an opportunity to use our minds to create what we want to see in this world by realizing that it is up to us to create it, because nobody's coming to save us. But collectively, when we come together with others, we can create that new future. Coming together in groups with people that inspire you, that uplift you, that support you. Understanding how the mind has been programmed to be in fear, to be suppressed, understanding this part of the psychological operation and the subliminal programming that surrounds us, that's all going in unconsciously and is having a detrimental effect upon us. So coming together with people, supporting each other. And the really important part about this is that as we move from 3D to 5D, 3D we always think of as the mental, the head stuff. We always think of 5D as the heart stuff. Now, isn't it interesting that their treatment for this thing, their bioweapon, is affecting people's hearts? At a time when our hearts are meant to be opening, elevating, holding higher vibration so that we can, be that change in the world at 5D. Just at that time when we're meant to be opening our heart, coming together and really getting this heart vibration happening, they come up with a bioweapon treatment that literally inflames the heart, shuts it down and damages it. Is that interesting or not? The heart is about love. It's about compassion, inspiration, joy, happiness, all of these beautiful high vibrational feelings that lift us up and remind us of who we truly are. And that's where you find your abundance. Remember, I always say that you are the source of your abundance, and it all comes through this beautiful heart connection about how you can give in the world. And in that giving, there's always the receiving. It's the in-breath, the out-breath, the give, the receive, the exchange of energy that supports each other and supports us. We give, we receive, community. It's so, so important that you tune into your heart and you ask, what feels good to me? What allows me to feel uplifted? How can I be of service? What am I here to do? What gifts and talents do I have to share with the world? Because that is how your abundance comes back to you. But it's all through the heart. When we're overthinking the process, we're kind of out of kilter. It's all about the heart. So it's so important to come into the heart, keep your heart open, clear the energy blocks of fear, of lack, or, fear and worry out of the heart, so you can keep your heart open, keep your heart clear. And most importantly, do the things that bring you joy and stand for your rights, for freedom under God's natural law, because that is your birthright. So I'm sorry that this was long. I hope it's helped you to put all the pieces together. If you have any questions, DM me, comment below, all of that stuff. But most importantly, keep your vibration high, keep out of fear, be careful where you place your attention, and don't get sucked into a dark void, because there are booby traps everywhere at the moment. That's enough. So, from my heart to yours, with love and many blessings. And I will see you next week. Bye for now.